Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Poppy class. Hi, Leslie. Long time no see.
Sorry?
I said long time no see. I like your haircut.
I know. Oh, thank you.
Nice.
Getting ready for the warmer weather.
Oh, yes, aren't we all? Priscilla, I see you still have snow in the background.
We do. Not much.
Happy.
Not much. It's still in the 50s. It hit the 50s today. So
What's that, like 20 something? No. What is that in Celsius? I have to look it up. I don't know.
yeah,
Not a lot.
it's
Not a lot.
Not a
Yeah.
lot. Okay.
but better than it's been.
Okay, good. All right. So I'm very excited you guys are here. We have a very fun class today. Does everyone have their sketch ready? Should look something like this. And please make sure it's lightly lined. So mine is really, really dark. The only reason mine is so dark is because I want you to see what I'm doing. But obviously, because we're painting with such light colors, if you have very dark pencil like I do, everything's going to show. And it's not a bad thing. Some people like that, but personally, like, you know, when you have like lines overlapping and stuff with the paint, it doesn't look so good. So I just want you to keep that in mind. If your drawings are a bit too dark, you have time to lightly erase them. What else did I want to mention? I think that's it. Are there any questions? No questions. Okay, excellent. So I'm just going to turn my camera over and we are going to get started with some exercises. Just a minute. Okay, super. So it looks harder than it is, believe it or not. So let me go over the supplies quickly. We have one green from the Classics palette. Today I'm using a mix of two because I can't find my Classics palette green. So I'm just mixing like a light green and a dark green, which will give me this, which is basically the exact same green that they have in the Classics palette by Art Philosophy. And then we have a dark orange and a light orange. So you could kind of see the differences here. I mentioned all the palettes on the email. So if you want to go back and get these, you can always check there. And then we have like a dark burgundy color, which is the color that you see in the center of these two flowers here. Okay, so it's 4 colors. Whoops, I just dropped my paint, but I'm using 5 because I don't have the green. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And then we have 2 brushes today. So the first brush is a size 14. It's called Round Petal, and it looks like this. And then we have a second one, which is a liner brush, which I don't often use, but these are actually really fun to use for creating like really thin and straight lines. I find I get better results with straight lines with brushes like this. So that's why I'm using this today. And this is called a script liner, and it's a size 1. So if you're interested in these brushes, don't forget the 10% off on the King Art website as well. All right, so we went over everything. Let me just talk a little bit about the painting. So there's a lot of wet on wet going on here. So for those who don't know what that is, it's simply wet paint and then going back in with more wet paint. And that's how you get these nice bleeds. So that's how you get the dark orange going into the light orange and the burgundy kind of spreading through all those colors. So we're going to do some exercises to practice this. And it's all about water control. So let me show you. So please grab a piece of rough paper to start. Okay, and let's just draw out a few of these flowers. Like the blooming ones are probably the hardest to do in my opinion. So let's just pretend that we're drawing a few out. Like let's pretend this is our final. So you've got the center and then you have 4 petals. Kind of like this, and don't worry how you draw them. If they look ugly, it really doesn't matter. I just want you to practice the techniques right now. So we've got our center, so you can make a little circle there for your center. And we can also do a few little squares up on top. This is our first step, will be these squares. We're going to practice how to get that wet on wet and how to get that nice gradient that you see in the flowers. Okay, so I want you to grab your large brush, please. Have these colors ready. So light orange, dark orange, and burgundy. Okay, for now, we're just going to start with the 2 oranges. So just keep your burgundy next to you. make sure you have your paper towel so you can dab your brush when you need to. Okay, so I am now wetting my brush in my water. I'll put it here so you can see. And first thing we want to do, so the background of our flower is light orange. So what I want you to do is go into your light orange to start and fill in the first square with a layer of this. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just want you to understand the technique. Okay, do that quickly, okay? We don't want the square to dry. If it starts to dry, you could see mine is drying really fast today. So I think I need to add a bit more water. So if yours is drying, just go back into your paint and your water and get a little more and just add more water to this. Okay, it should be pretty damp, something like this. This looks good. Okay, you want it to shine in the light. That's how you know it's very wet. Next step, I want you to clean your brush, grab your dark orange paint. And I want you to just make a line going across. Okay, and just let that bleed. Okay, you'll notice this is where you see about water control. So if you have too much water on your brush, you're going to get like a really big bleed and it's probably going to take over your whole square. If you have less water and more pigment, you'll get something like this where it's bleeding, but you can still see the dark orange, which is what we want. So let me show you a bad example of what not to do. So if you have too much water, right now my brush is like dripping, and I'll do the same thing. Okay, you'll notice that I get like these puddles and the water is just not controlled here at all, and it doesn't know what's happening. So it's kind of going all over the place. So the key is not having too much water on your brush. So if your brush is dripping wet, you're going to get something like this and you won't get such a nice blend. So you want it something more like this, maybe in between both. At the end of the day, you just want the colors to blend together so that you can get something nice and fluid like this, okay? So we can practice that again. Let's do it again. So we have orange as our background. Okay, this time I want you to put your orange, darker orange in the center as a dot. Okay, so I'm going to my dark orange and okay, you'll see that when I just have a light dot like that, it kind of stays in the center and doesn't really explode like it did in my painting. So we want it to explode a little bit more. So what we do is we go back into our water, grab a little bit of water on our brush and gently add a few little dabs inside that same circle. Okay, naturally it's going to end up bleeding together and create a really nice effect. So imagining that this is a flower in one of our paintings, we also need, for the ones that are blooming like this, we need some burgundy. So the burgundy, you'll want your brush to be fairly dry. So make sure it's not too wet. You can kind of remove some of that water on your paper towel. And then you want to put a little bit, have it pretty concentrated on your brush. Okay, you want it to be kind of like this. I'm just showing you how much I have on my brush. And just add a tiny, tiny little dot. But really be careful. If you have a lot of water, it's going to take over the square. So you want to make sure you don't have too much water. Okay, so kind of dab it just to make sure you don't have too much water, and then go right in the center where we put our orange dot and just make one little dot just like that. Okay, and you'll see how it spreads, but it's not going crazy, right? It's not doing this. So it's still somewhat controlled. Okay, that's because we don't have too much water. If we did have too much water, I'll show you what would happen. So let's say we've got way too much water on our brush and we want to do that dot. I'm going to do it here to show you. Okay, you see it starts to bloom like crazy, and this is just going to keep blooming as it goes. Okay, it's not controlled. We don't want our dot to be too big, so this is preferred to this. Okay, if this happens to you, don't worry, it'll still look beautiful. I assure you, this is a loose painting. So at the end of the day, we do want our colors to flow together. So if your blooms are bigger than mine or something, just go with the flow, okay? It's part of the process and part of learning. So is everyone understanding so far? Do you have any questions? Okay, no questions. Thank you for the thumbs up, Priscilla. Great. Okay, so I think we could skip this for now. If we need to go back, let me know. We can always redo an exercise. And now I want us to practice within our flower. So the way this works, I want you to incorporate this concept right here that we did here, but for each petal. Okay, so let me tell you what I mean before I start. So each petal will be light orange. We're going to paint the whole thing light orange, and then we're going to add a dot or maybe 2 dots, depending on how it bleeds, right here of our dark orange. Okay, so it's going to be light orange here, dark orange here for each petal. Okay, and we're going to connect everything together, and then we're going to go in with our burgundy and add that little dot. So let's try that out together. So I'm going to start with just one petal right now. Okay, make sure you don't have too much water. You don't want like any puddles. So if you have any puddles, remove those, have your paper towel nearby and just dab and remove the excess water. All right, while it's still wet, we need to do this fast because we need it to be wet. Go into your dark orange with the tip of your brush, and then you can add a dot or 2 of that darker orange and just let it bleed, okay? We're not touching the center. So the little circle that we drew in our sketch, we have a little circle that we drew. We're gonna leave that empty for now, okay? So we have to work fast because at the end of the day, we need this dark orange to still be wet so that when we put our burgundy, it spreads, okay? So let's do all of the petals. Okay, and look what happens. If you touch it to this part of the petal, you'll see that the color flows in. That's totally fine, okay? When I painted mine, this is also what happened and it's part of the beauty. So just go with it and have fun. Okay, I'm going back in. I'm just adding my light orange like I did for, the first petal, and then back to the dark orange, putting a dot of that or 2 dots, whatever you feel comfortable with, and whatever effect you like, depends how much orange you want. And I'm just doing this quickly now, so I want you to practice doing this quickly. We're doing all the petals kind of at once, keeping in mind that the center circle needs to stay empty. Okay, so fill it in, then go into your dark orange, add your dot, and last petal. Okay, and orange dot. So that is it for that part. You'll see I have more water here, so it's flowing in more. So you see how the water is very important here. If you have lots of water, you're going to get more of a bleed. If you have less water, you'll get less. So play around with that. And our last step now, while it's still wet, we need to grab our burgundy and fill in that little dot. And don't be afraid to touch your dot to the dark orange. You want it to kind of flow in. It looks really nice. Okay, there we go. So that's how we do our flowers. Okay, so this had a little bit too much water and that's why it's bleeding and it's heading downwards because my paper is curling a little bit. And so it's kind of like a mountain now where the paper is on a slope. So the bleed is going downward, okay? Just want you to understand why this is happening. And also to know that if it happens to you, if the bleed goes somewhere else, it's okay. It's a loose painting. You want it to be loose and flowy. So as long as we see all the colors, it's good. So shall we do another one? Do we need more practice? Yes, I know it's hard.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So let's do it again. Okay, so same thing as before. We're starting with light orange and a big brush. And let's do this a different way. Okay, let's paint each petal with our light orange and then go in with our dark orange and do 4 dots. Okay, let's try that. Let's see which one you prefer, because there are different ways of painting certain things. So I want to try this technique with you, and then I want to know what you prefer. So we're doing every petal with this orange, making sure the center is empty. Okay, make sure you have enough water on your brush and in each petal so that when we do add our dark orange, it spreads nicely. Okay, and you got to do this fast because you see right now it's wet, so it'll bleed nicely. If it dries too much, and you could already see this petal is drying a bit. You see it's not shining so much. So I might just go in and add a bit more water here. Okay, and now you want to go into your dark orange, and now you can play with your bleed. So you can do a few dots. This is usually how I like to do it. But I figured I would show you the first technique because maybe it's easier. I don't know. I want you to let me know. So you see what I did? I just went in and I put 2 dots of orange, 2 dots of orange, 2 dots of orange. Same thing for the last petal, 2 dots of orange, and then you let that bleed. Okay, if you want even more orange, and don't be shy to like experiment with this, you can go back in and add way more orange. Like there's no limit. You can make this darker if you want. If you want more bleed, just go back in, add more dots of the darker orange, and you'll get more spread and more diversity inside your flower. So depends on what you like. And while it's still wet, we want to make sure our brush is pretty dry. So remember to remove all excess water. And you have to do this fast because this still has to be wet. It shouldn't be too wet. If your flower has like puddles in it, then you should wait a bit because if it has puddles, it's not going to bleed properly. Okay, so mine looks fairly decent. You see, I'm shining it in the light so you can see how much water I have. Okay, so now I'm just going to fill in that circle. And I'm going to let the paint touch whichever petal it wants to touch. I'm not being picky on that because I do want this to spread. Okay, and you see I'm going in with a few, I kind of do this in the center. I like do little dots until like it starts touching and it starts bleeding. That's it. And then you just let it bleed. It's going to do whatever it feels like. Each flower is going to look totally different. I'm telling you this right now. You can do this a million times and you'll always have totally different flowers. So you can already see that this one is spreading much less than this one, right? Okay, I'll give you a minute or 2 minutes to finish this. If you have any questions, you can ask me. And then we are going to practice the leaves. And then we'll get started with our final painting. So I'll just give you a minute now. Okay, how's it going? Are we done? Can we move on to the leaves? And everyone understands, right? Remember not to be hard on yourself. This is supposed to be fun, and it doesn't matter what really happens to your flowers. At the end of the day, everything's gonna go together, and we have our sketch to guide us, okay? Okay, let's practice some leaves now. So I'm using these two mixed. You should just have a medium green, which will look something like this. This is actually very light underneath, but I've already mixed it with my dark green. Okay, and you want to grab your liner brush. If you don't have a liner brush, that's okay. You can just use a small, regular brush, something like this. If you only have something like this will work just fine, okay? I personally like this for these stems because it stays the same width. I find I have much less trouble controlling it, When I use these types of brushes, I find I get like thick and thin and, it's a little bit harder to control, especially if your hand shakes a little bit, if you've had coffee or something, this just makes it easier. Okay, so the stems are fairly simple. You're just gonna follow the penciled lines that I added. And then when it comes to the leaves, I've added like a few little kind of sticks that stick out like this. I didn't add all the details. I did on one just to show you what it's going to look like on the bottom right one. But basically what you're going to do is wherever I added one of those, little pieces sticking out, you're just going to add some light lines that go to each side. Let me just bring this a little closer. Okay, you're just going to lightly add some little lines, and these don't have to be perfect or perfectly straight. Okay, just have fun with your brush and just pull them out. So practice that now. So we have our line, and you see how my color is not consistent really because I'm mixing two colors. So just ignore that. You should have just one color here. Okay, and you just want to pull these on each side. So it looks a bit like a pine tree almost. So little points on each side of each, little stem here. Okay, so just practice those with your brush. If you have any questions, you can let me know. I'll do a few more while you're painting so you can just watch me. Okay, and you'll see that I'm doing this fairly quickly and I don't want them to all be perfect. So I'm not kind of, I don't want them to be all parallel and perfect. You know what I mean? So
That's the easiest part.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Just go quick and just pull them quickly and that's it, you're done. So we've got a few of these in our painting. They're kind of all over the place and I'll show you once we get to the final and I'll guide you. But for now, just make sure you understand this technique of just pulling them from side to side pretty delicately, okay? We don't want the lines to be too thick. And please let me know if you have any questions. I'll give you another few minutes to finish practicing. And if there are no more questions, then we'll go to the final.
Hey, Bianca.
Yes, go ahead.
Um, the burgundy that I'm using, once it starts to bleed out, it looks quite purpley. Is that what it's supposed to be looking like?
I would say mine looks kind of, yeah, I guess it couldn't look purpley, but once it mixes with the orange, you can see it's like a little bit purple. Once it mixes
Okay.
with the orange, I'd say it kind of turns into almost a brown, but your eye kind of gets confused and your eye doesn't really analyze what this shade is. So yeah.
I'm gonna try adding a little bit of red.
Yeah, maybe add a bit of red in there. It might be less purpley.
Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, you have 1 more minute to finish up. And for those who are already done, just grab your sheet of paper that you have your sketch on. Okay, who's ready to start the final? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready. Ready? Okay, great. So let's get started with one of the top flowers, okay? These ones are actually easier, which is why we didn't even practice them. Basically, it's what we learned about the color flowing within the other color. There's no burgundy though in these. There's no burgundy, and also the top petal that you'll see here and here, you don't want to paint it right now, okay? So we're going to save that to the end. So for now, we just want to paint these 2 petals and these 2 petals. We're going to start with one flower though, okay? So make sure your brush is clean. You're using your big brush. Have your paper towel nearby. And remember, all these lines are going to be very apparent on my painting. I'm telling you this now. But I'm keeping it this way so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so let's start. This part is really fun. You just want to color in the first 2 petals with your light orange. Just follow the lines and color these in. I'm saying color, but it's actually paint, but it feels more like coloring when there are lines. Yeah. But I know it makes it easier also for the painting. So that's why we have lines. Okay, while it's still wet, I'm going to give you 20 seconds to finish this. So just make sure you've done both petals here. So you have 15 seconds left because we need this to be wet. Okay, 5 seconds. Okay, we're ready. So now what you want to do is grab a little bit of your orange, and we just want to add a few lines. Look what I'm doing. I started down here and I'm just pulling upward. We just want to add like 1, 2, and maybe 1 here, 3. That's it. So do that. You saw what I did. It's wet. I went into my red and I just 1 line, 1 line, 1 line. And don't worry if one is very faint, like the last one is very faint. You barely see it. It's going to look really nice when it all blends together. Okay, so just once you're done, into your red, sorry, dark orange, I mean, and 1 line, 1 line, 1 line, and then just let it dry. Okay, it's very fast process. Okay, can everyone see both colors so far? You can see both? That's what I want. I just want you to see both. If you see everything is too dark, it's not ideal. It's still going to look nice, but I really want to be able to see both colors now. Okay, we're going to do the same thing here, exact same thing. So clean your brush. Is everyone ready? We're doing the first 2 petals here now. Same concept. So light orange, fill in the first 2. Okay, I'm giving you 10 more seconds to finish this. So you just want to color in both leaves. That's it. Both petals, sorry. You go over your lines a little bit, don't worry about it. It's a loose painting. We don't really care if you go over. No one's gonna, be analyzing your painting and grading you on that. At least I won't. Okay, and while it's still wet, we want to do the same thing. So go back into your dark orange and let's start one line in the center here where you see the overlap. So one line, and this one's really dark. So I put a little bit too much of that dark orange on my brush. So maybe I'll remove a bit. I'm gonna leave it though, okay? Because I want you to see the natural way that watercolors works. And I don't want to control it too much. It's part of the beauty to me. Okay, and then another line here. So there's one. And now I could see I've got way less of that dark orange. So I'm gonna go back in and just add a little bit more. And I think I'm gonna add another line here. So just follow me. Okay, if yours is really orange, you don't need to add another line. Just kind of, you're the judge of your painting at the end of the day. So if you can see both colors, it's good. If you can't see both colors, then just go back into your dark orange and add another line. Okay, and we're gonna add one more on this petal. So just like that. Okay, I just did one line and just brought it up. Now we let it dry. Okay, are we ready to move on? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready. If you're not ready, I'll give you more time. Okay, I'll give you another 20 seconds. Do we need 20 more seconds? Remember, this should be fast because if it's taking you all this time, that probably means that your background is already dry and therefore the colors won't spread. So that's why we have to do it quickly. Okay, so with the same concept in mind, we're gonna finish all the side flowers. So this one and this one as well. So same concept. Now you understand it's just the same thing for all of these now. So for this one, we're going to paint all three, okay? All three with the light orange. Okay, and while it's still wet, we're gonna go in with our orange. I am going to test my orange before because I don't want it to be too dark. So I'm putting a bit of water. I'm just doing this on my piece of rough paper. So I'm adding a bit more water so that when I actually do add my lines, they'll be more transparent like this. Versus if I had gone in directly, which I did before, you see, it's much more concentrated and therefore you get bolder lines. I want the lines to be a little bit more delicate, I'd say, but if they're bold, I assure you, your painting will still look really nice, okay? So you can create this little mixture on your rough paper, or if you have a palette, you can do that on there as well. And it should be something like this. Once you try it out, it should be fairly transparent, but you can still see the difference in tones, right? So that's very important. And while I was explaining all that, my flower is almost fully dry. So I'm gonna go back in, okay? If yours is dry, just do the same thing as I'm doing. I'm going back in, adding a little bit of orange because we already have a lot, making sure my brush is wet and just going over everything. This way the dark orange will spread nicely. Very quickly, you see how fast I did that? Okay, cleaning my brush, removing all the light orange and now going into my little puddle here. Let me just move my light so you don't have that shine. And now same thing, I'm gonna go in with the lines. So the lines now, I'm gonna follow the pencil. So pencil line here, and you can see I've got a lot of water, so it's spreading like crazy. So what I'm gonna do is remove some of that water. Go back in to my color and maybe add a bit more red. And let's do the same thing here. There we go, that looks good. And we can do another one here. This one spread like crazy, right? So it's kind of taking over the light orange. And that's because I have a lot of water. Do you see that? Which is not a bad thing. It's just going to spread more. That's all. It'll still look nice, like I told you before. And I'm doing another line here. Okay, so it doesn't really matter where you do your lines, as long as we could kind of see the difference in tones. You see that we see the difference here now. We could see the light versus the dark here as well. So I just want you to be able to see that in all of our flowers. So I'm going to add one more in the center here. Just like that. And that's it. And now I'm just going to let it dry. Okay, are we ready to do the next flower, or do you need more time? Ready? Need a bit more time? Okay, I'll give you another minute, so don't worry. If you're just finish up whatever you're doing. Okay, are we ready? Thumbs up if you're ready. Okay, so we're gonna do this one now, same as here. Okay, so we're not filling in the top petal, just the first two. So we want to start with the light orange. Okay, and I can see it. Do you see I have a little puddle here? So that's a bit too much water. So what I'm going to do is just absorb some of that, make sure my brush is dry first, and then just gently dab on the wet area and then remove on my paper towel. That way I don't have a puddle, you see? And now the puddle's gone. So before it dries, we've got to add more of that orange, the dark one. So we can add our little lines again. We could start with one on the overlap just to guide us. And that's really, really dark, you see? So I'm telling you, you're gonna have, all your flowers are gonna be slightly different. It's really not a problem. It's part of the painting. Let's just look at it that way. And everything usually always comes together. This is how I always paint my flowers, and the results are always quite nice, okay? So just, it's all about not being too hard on yourself and not being like, oh, why did the paint do that? Why is this too dark? You gotta just kind of go with it. Okay, let's do another line here. Add a bit more of my orange there. And maybe one more on this side, very light. Okay, and the rest, I'm just letting the paint do what it wants. So if it wants to bleed in and take over, that's okay with me. So I'll give you another 2 minutes to finish that flower. And after that, we can do our smaller buds because those are fairly easy. And then we'll do our big flowers, okay? So I'll just explain what we're gonna do for the buds. So all the ones that are close here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, okay? So in those 4, what we'll be doing is placing our light yellow first. So filling in each bud with the light yellow, not too much water because this is a very, very small surface, right? If you have too much water, when we add our second color, it's not gonna flow properly. We want the orange, the dark orange, to just bleed in gently. So remember the first exercise we did with the water control and our flowers here, it's the same concept. Okay, and let me show you, you can watch me for the first one. So I think I've got quite a bit of water on my brush right now. So what I like to do is just remove some of it on my paper towel and then go in and fill this. Okay, I'm just following the shape. That's it. And let me show you up close how much water I have here. So you can see it's kind of grainy and not too watery, right? Do you see that? You can kind of see the texture of the paper. That's good. That means when I put my dark red, it's not going to take over. It's just going to be a little dash of extra color at the bottom that kind of goes up. So clean your brush. Now you want to grab the dark orange and make sure you don't have too much of it. And then we can just do our little dot. Okay, there you go. And that's it. You just want to let this bleed now and kind of do whatever it wants. As long as we see both colors, I'm happy. Okay, so try that out. Let me know if you have questions. And we're going to be doing that for this one here, and that little one we'll just leave light yellow. Or actually we'll make it dark. We're gonna make it dark, okay? It'll look better. Okay, are we ready to move on? Fairly simple, right? And you'll see it's starting to bleed and you see how the colors just change and you have no control over it. That's part of the fun. So I really want you to keep that in mind, that the fun thing about loose watercolors is letting it go and letting it do what it wants to do. Always keep that in mind. And I assure you, you'll enjoy the process much more, okay? It's not fun when you're always trying to control everything and it doesn't work as planned. That's why I love loose watercolors. Okay, next one is this little one. Just some light yellow, that's it. And then this one, we can do both at the same time because they're fairly quick. It's just light yellow and then our little dot of dark orange. Okay, so I'm grabbing a little bit of that darker color. And then I'll just add a dot here. There we go. And one dot here. That's it. Okay, let it bloom, let it flow, whatever. Just one dot, that's it. Okay, you should be done. Thumbs up. Are you done? Do you need a bit more time? Okay, I see a few people are still painting, so I'll give you another minute to finish up.
Bianca,
Yes.
this may be just very silly and elementary, but I read about this little thing someplace. It's an empty tissue roll, and I've wrapped paper towel around it and a couple of rubber bands, and I use that as my paper towel blotting
Oh,
device.
nice.
And it's also great when I have too much water. I feel like I have more control over this than a flat bit of
Oh, well,
paper towel.
thank you so much for sharing that. I've never seen that. That's a great piece of advice. Yeah, and it's, there's no such thing as like,
Cool.
you know,
Very high
childish or
tech.
whatever. It's, I think it's really smart. And I just threw out a roll of toilet paper, so maybe I'll go get it.
No shame.
No, exactly. I love that. That's really smart. Okay, let's fill in our little bun on top with, let me just confirm, let's do the darker one this time. So the darker orange, just a little bit, and let's fill this one up. That's it. Clean your brush. Okay, and now we are going to get started with our petals. So I forgot to ask, which technique did you like more? Did you prefer when we did petal by petal with the dot of orange and then yellow dot of orange, yellow dot of orange, or did you prefer when we did all the light yellow and then all the dots? Which one did you prefer, 1 or 2? Melinda says 2. Priscilla says 2.
No preference. It's just a matter of if I have too much water, that's more of an issue, I feel like.
Right. So if you have too much water, I
Yeah.
think this is easier because then you could just remove, with your brush, you
Yep.
can just absorb and then go in with your dot. So I think this might be a little bit easier. You might have a bit more control with this one than this one.
And that's 2.
That's 2. Yes. That's when we do
Okay.
all yellow first, and then we go in with our orange.
Okay.
Okay. So I think this is probably easier. So let's do this one. All right, so we're gonna get started with the top flower up here. And I just want you to fill each petal with this yellow to start. Remember to keep the little circle at the center empty. Okay, and I'm gonna give you an example of what to do if you've got too much water, because that can happen when you're doing this. It can always happen, especially when you're, trying to fill a whole flower with color. You might get these puddles, and that's okay. So if you do get puddles, and let me just show you what they look
Yes,
like.
wait. Oops, sorry if I'm still on.
Sorry?
I was talking to my dog.
Oh, I didn't
He's
hear
re-
you. I didn't hear
Okay,
you. Don't worry.
good.
I'll mute you. Okay, so if you have a puddle that looks like this, before you go in and put in your dark orange, what I like to do, and this is what Leslie was talking about, is that when you have too much water and you're like, oh no, what do I do? It's so easy. You actually just make sure that your brush is pretty dry. It doesn't have to be bone dry, but just enough that it will absorb, okay? And then you just go into the puddle and it will absorb that excess water, and then you remove. You can see my puddles now in the light. You see them? So I have 1 and 2. So you just go in, it'll absorb and then remove. And you keep doing that until your puddle is gone. Okay, wherever you need to do it, just absorb. There, now you don't see my puddle, right? It's equal everywhere. Perfect, that's exactly what we want. And before it dries, now we want to add our second orange. So we can go in and have some fun with this and watch it bloom. So I just did 1, 2, 3 dots, and I'll do 1, 2, 3 dots. And you can't see because of my light, sorry. So now you can see what happens, and you'll see that the colors just kind of flow together. You can also tilt your painting if you want. That helps the colors bleed. So sometimes I like to do that. And you see how I'm holding it this way, and all the orange went up. So if I wanted to go down, you just the other way, and look how cool, like it's almost like it's walking. So neat. Okay, and you can kind of control it that way also. So that's another fun little trick that I like to use when I paint. Okay, once you're happy with the way it's spreading, I usually just put it down, let it dry. I didn't even have to do that in the first place. It was just to show you what you can do. Okay. And I said let it dry, but that was a lie because we have to add our burgundy before it dries. So finish this up quickly, add your bit of dark orange, and then I want you to grab your burgundy. And remember, we don't want lots of water on our brush this time. So I can already see I've got way too much water in this pan. So before I add my dot, I'm just going to remove all the excess water. I don't want this to bleed like crazy, just enough, you know, and either one of these can happen. So it can become big or it could stay small. As long as it doesn't overpower and take over my whole flower, I'm happy with it, okay? So that's up to the watercolor, not me. So here I go. So I start with the center and then gently touch it to my other corners. And that's it. And then you just let it bleed. It's going to bleed so nicely. I'm always happy with this technique. It's always different and always looks great. So you can already see it's going in upward. It's going a little bit to the right and it's just doing its own thing. So go ahead, place your burgundy. It's really going to make your flower pop. Let me know if you have questions, of course, and I'll give you a few minutes to finish this. Okay, thumbs up if you're done. If not, I'll give you more time. I just want to know where everyone's at. So Lana and Jean need a bit more time, so we'll give them another minute, okay? For those who are completely done and waiting around, you can start. Feel free to start this flower. Okay, so you already know how to do it. It's the light yellow, then your dots of orange, and then burgundy. Okay, are we done? Thumbs up if you're done. Still working. I see some of you are still working. I'm going to continue. because we have to keep going. But you know, hopefully it's going well. Let me know if you have questions as we go. We're going to tackle this flower now. So same thing as before. So we start with our orange, our light orange first. And I can already see I've got a lot of water in this flower, and that's okay. I can always remove it once I'm done adding this color to all 4 petals. Okay, I'm leaving the little circle empty. And now let me show you the puddle. So the puddle is here. Do you see it? So I'm going to do exactly what I did before. So make sure the brush is fairly dry and then gently dab and remove as many times as you need. Dab, remove. So there's a little bit more, dab, remove. And now look, the puddle is gone. Do you see that? It's like the best technique ever. Okay, while it's still wet, we got to add our dark orange. So I'm going to do my fun little dots. I do them all around this little circle. So just follow along. Oh, do you see what happened here? Let me show you. It's dry. This petal is already dry. So you can see it's not blending. Do you see that? So we want it to blend, of course. So what I'm going to do is go back into my water and just wake it up. So by wake it up, I just mean add a bit more water in all my petals so that we're ready for the bleeds. Super. And now I'll do the same thing and you'll see it's going to start bleeding now. There we go. You see? Now it's working. Okay, I'm going to make my circle a little bit smaller. I want a bit more orange in here. So just going to close this up, leave a little dot for the burgundy. And I'll let you guys finish this up. Remember, it has to be wet for the burgundy to flow. So try and do this quickly. Okay, so I don't want this to dry fully, right? I do need the center to still be wet. So I'm going to go in and add my bit of burgundy now. So just adding a little bit to the tip of my brush. And then this is the fun part, gently touch it to the rest and just watch it flow, okay? So I'll give you another minute to finish this flower and then we're gonna finish up the last petals here. And then we're going to add all our stems and the rest of the details.
What about the tops of the flowers? Those 3 flowers.
These?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be doing these. Once you guys are done this, we're going to finish those.
Okay.
Thanks for asking. Okay, are we done? Thumbs up if you're done. You should be done by now. Okay, good. So now what we're gonna do is just fill in the 3 petals that are left. What I want you to do for these is just add some light yellow. Okay, so light yellow. And try not to go over the other petals. You just want to add it to whatever's left. Okay, same thing here. Keep it nice and transparent. So not too much water or pigment. Okay, and here. Okay, next thing I want us to do is go back into our light yellow. And let's just go, you see we have an overlap here, so let's just add a bit more color to this overlap. So I'm just going in with a bit of that light yellow and a bit of that light yellow on all the overlaps that we have. So 1, 2, 3. That's it, just very quickly. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and the next step is all the green. So just finish your overlaps quickly. And then we're gonna get started with the green leaves. Okay, I'm preparing a little puddle of a medium green, which is what you should be using today. So I'm just mixing my 2 greens that I have here. And this looks perfect, something like that. Okay, are we ready? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready to start the last step of our painting. Okay, great. So let's get started. This is pretty fun and straightforward. You just want to follow the sketch that's already there with your brush, and feel free to turn your painting if your hand is uncomfortable, you know, making movements like this. You can always tilt your painting and turn it so that it's comfortable for you. Also, don't be afraid if some of your painting is still wet and the green bleeds. I like that. I think it looks nice. So don't be afraid if a petal's wet and you touch it and it bleeds. I think it looks nice. So let's start. I'm starting with the bottom, and this one is wet, you see? So it's bleeding inside of the petal. I really like that. Okay, you'll notice some of them go over our flower. So do make sure that this flower is dry once you go over. Otherwise, you know, you're gonna have too much green in this flower. It's not gonna look great. So we won't do that one just yet because I wanna make sure all your flowers are dry. So let's do this one here. Okay, we can do little details. So we can do like this one here also. We've got a small one. And we have this one hidden. There's just a little piece showing. So we can paint that little piece and then it continues down here. So just pull that. Okay, we can also start some of our leaves. So all these little, what's it called? Pencil lines that we have sticking out, those are leaves. So we can start by painting these center lines. And then remember, all the little pointy leaves go all around these, okay? So just, this is really fun. I really love this part. You just want to pull and do it quickly because you want them to be loose. You don't want them to look all perfect. So do them quickly. Okay, you see how fast I did that? So just practice your speed a little bit with these. The more time you take, the more, you'll try and get them to look perfect, and then that defeats the purpose of the loose painting. So that's the whole point, is to have it loose and flowy. So there's another one here. So same thing, just pulling these up. Okay, I'll give you another minute. The next flower I'm going to be painting, the next stem is this one here. So I'm just going to follow this line and I'm going to tilt it. It makes it easier on my hand. So just follow the line that you have drawn out. If you run out of color, you could see it got really transparent here. That's okay. Just go back into your green and continue where it started to fade and just add more. That's it. And then you could see it looks nice and bright now. Okay, let's keep going. So we've got two little leaves, one here, one here. So you see those two, one and one. And to those, we want to pull the little lines. And here, same thing. Don't be afraid to paint on your flower. Okay, don't be scared to get some green there. So some of these leaves can overlap. And this was the example that I drew for you, right? So we could do that one also while we're in this area. Whoops. Okay, excellent. We can do, I'm just looking at what's wet and what's dry. So is your painting mostly dry now? If it's not, you can also use a hair dryer, gently dry it. I'm not going to. So for me, whatever kind of flows. I'm okay with that. So now I'm going to paint this long one here that goes, do you see what I'm doing? I'm just showing you which one I'm painting. So it goes through this flower. You want to paint on top of it. So let's do that one. I'm running out of colors, so I just went back in to get more. And I'm going to go again because since this brush is so thin, it doesn't hold that much pigment. So I got to keep going in to get more. Then we have our little stems here. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, this one has 4. I'll bring my camera a bit closer so you can see better. Okay, and same thing, you just want to pull these up quickly and pull. You see how fast I'm doing it? I'm really not paying attention to the outcome. I'm just going quick. And I have a little mistake here. When I dropped my brush, it actually made like a stem. So I'm just going to put some leaves on that too. Okay, oh, and I forgot this one here, right? This one's a little bit hidden. The same thing, we can add little lines. And we're almost done. Okay, I'll give you a bit of time. So I'm just going to, I'll be right here, but I'll give you a minute because I'm sure you're still working on all the details. So if you have questions, I'm here. Okay, let's keep going. So we just want to finish up now. Let's do, we can do this little side one. And this one skips, right? It skips this petal and then continues. So there we go with that one. For this one, I'm going to turn my painting. So this one is just a straight line. Okay, we've done all the major ones. We just have a few little bits and pieces left. So just finish those up, add your lines wherever you need to. So this is a stem going to the bud, and then we have some leaves in different areas. So let's add those. And we have one here. We have one more here. So wherever you see any remaining pencil lines, you know that there's a leaf there and you just want to add these little details. Okay, I'm just scanning now to see if I've forgotten anything, but I think I've gone over all the pencil lines now. So it looks like I'm done. So I'll give you guys another few minutes just to finish up all your details that are left, and then we'll take our group picture. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you're done. Who needs a bit more time? Give me a thumbs down if you need more time. No one. Okay, so then shall we take our group picture and share our results? Let's see everyone's work. Oh, very nice. Beautiful. Leslie, gorgeous. You see your bleeds are beautiful because you didn't care so much. You were just listening to me and doing what it, just dropping your paint, and look how nice they look.
That bottom one is pretty intense.
No, it's beautiful. I think everything goes so nicely together. Look at Priscilla. Everyone did great. I have no, negative comments about anyone. Jean did great. Beautiful work, Jean. Lana, excellent. Excellent, Hannah. Melinda.
I dropped my brush.
Who dropped their brush?
I did,
Oh.
right here. So I had to make another,
Where did you drop it? I don't see. Where's your mark?
right here, right in the center.
Right in the
Coming-
center. I
coming
can't.
What would be a painting without a drop brush, Priscilla?
I know, right through the flower.
So
It's
you
your
guys saw it.
personality.
I
Call it
dropped
the
my brush.
personality.
I dropped my brush here and it made a funny line and I turned it into a leaf. So like you can
Well,
always,
yeah, I dropped mine, actually, it's right there where it's a little dark, right in the center.
oh,
I
yeah,
usually
okay.
get a blob of water that it stains his color. I don't usually drop the brush. I get watermarks.
Yes.
On this one, on mine, it got a really big,
Oh, it's pretty though.
looked like an
Yeah.
orchid.
Well, everyone did really good. I'm very proud. So let's take our group picture. Are we all ready? So
Yep.
ready to smile? Okay, smile. Excellent. It looks like we're all frozen in time. Okay, so don't forget, I'm sharing this on my Facebook group. I don't know if you've all joined. I think most of you have, but you can always share your results there if you want to do it again and share the results with us. We love to see and give comments and feedback and stuff like that. So thank you for joining. We have a few more flowers coming up, and then we've got more flowers next month and more flowers next month also.
Great.
Okay,
Thank
super.
you.
Are there any questions before I leave? Nothing.
Nope.
Did you have fun?
Yes, it
Bianca,
was fun.
yes, absolutely. Bianca, have you ever done octopi or cephalopods?
Octopi, no. I think that would be quite challenging. I'm thinking about it like,
Maybe in the time frame that we have.
and yeah, that would definitely be more than 1 hour. So,
Okay.
yeah. Maybe we could do like half an octopus. No.
Just one
Four.
tentacle 8 times.
Yeah,
right?
just one tentacle, that's it.
Well, maybe, and that could be cool.
And that would be homework, the other 7.
You got it.
Any other
Uh,
recommendations? Anything else you want me to teach? Let me know. I'm always open to suggestions. You can also let me know later. Doesn't have to be right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thanks.
Hi
Yeah,
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.